Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. And those of you who are being welcomed back, you probably remember my top 5 gameplay changes for Fontaine to add video, where I discussed 5 potential significant gameplay upgrades that Hoyoverse could introduce in Fontaine. And if you remember that, well, chances are you probably also know that I've been holding off on this video for about a month now. But finally, the time has come. And in order from what I consider least important to most important, here are my top 10 quality of life changes that Hoyoverse should consider adding into Genshin Impact in Fontaine. Before we proceed, I want to mention something briefly. Now, I'm not one to smile a lot, but recently I was reviewing the geographic distribution of my audience and I saw something that put a little smile on my face. Just a little dent on my lips, you could say. Obviously, the number one nation was the United States, but the second country surprised me because it's actually the Philippines, which I really love because it's amazing to have such a wide range of viewers all the way from North America into the Pacific Ocean. So, to all my Filipino brothers and sisters, you know what? Never mind. To all my Southeast Asian viewers, I see you. Thanks a lot. Okay, let's get into the video. So, starting things off at number 10, we have less of a detrimental quality of life update that the game absolutely needs, and more of a annoyance reduction / repetitive task management that the game would significantly benefit from in the long term. So, it has to do with our friend Catherine over here. If you talk to her every single day like me, then you know how annoying it can be to have to select every character in terms of the expeditions and then claim all of the materials and then reselect every single character every single day and redispatch them all one by one by one. So if we can have a single button where we can claim all of the materials and then automatically redispatch all of the characters into the expeditions, that would be absolutely amazing and it would make the experience a lot smoother. Honestly, for me personally, I do not even bother claiming these things anymore. I just do my dailies and then say goodbye to Catherine. So Honkai Star Rail kind of has what I'm talking about in terms of the assignments feature. Now, do keep in mind that the assignments is not a perfect one-to-one copy of what I'm saying. That being said, it is a nice starting point. If Genshin can get something similar to this, except it's a single button where you click the button and then claim redispatch instantly, that would be absolutely amazing. Also, something else that I'm just gonna tag along into this because we're on the topic of annoyance and reducing repetitive tasks. Genshin has a lot of things where you have to, or a lot of minor incrementing tasks where you have to select an item one by one, select that exact same item again and again and again. And a very good example of that is having to refine weapons. So when it comes to light cones in Honkai Star Rail, superimposition, which is the exact equivalent of refinements, you can, instead of having to refine it or select the refinement material one by one, you can just select all of the refinement materials all at the same time and then do the maximum superimposition or maximum refinement all at once. Again, I'm just using refinements as an example. There are many annoying little things in Genshin where you have to reselect the exact same item 100 times. If we can just remove these things from Genshin Impact, make it so that you can do everything all at once, or at least give the option to do everything all at once. Maybe some players like to do it one by one, sure, whatever. Then that would be absolutely amazing. Also, one more thing that I'm gonna say right now, just as a disclaimer, I'm comparing Honkai Star Rail to Genshin, and do keep in mind, this is not the only time you're gonna hear about Honkai Star Rail in this video. You're gonna hear about it a lot because, unfortunately, a lot of the things that the Genshin player base and a lot of the quality of life updates that the game in Genshin needs have been already implemented in Honkai Star Rail and have not been implemented into Genshin for some reason. So, unfortunately, we will have to do this comparison a lot throughout this video. Moving on to number 9, this is a change that I genuinely want to see in Genshin, at least in the near future, and it is to increase the load limit in the Serenity Pot, because right now there are a lot of things that I want to do in the Serenity Pot, a lot of buildings that I want to make, a lot of, I suppose, little details that I want to add to my areas, but I always get cucked by the load limit, and I end up having to just half-ass a location or half-ass a building. That being said, I will mention this. I understand that, number one, not many people outside of myself actually care about the Serenity Pot enough in order to justify this change. Number two, I recognize that there are logistic issues in terms of game optimization across multiple different platforms, Android, iOS, PlayStation and PC, to where it could limit this edition, which is why those two factors are why I have this edition so low on the list. But if Hoyoverse are able to increase the load limit of the Serenity Pot in order to allow players to expand on their construction, build more stuff, it would be really, really good, and I would love this change because I think that the building system in the Serenity Pot is really fun. Unfortunately, it is extremely limited. Next up at number 8, we have an extremely straightforward quality of life update for Genshin to implement. You see this delay between me pressing the party button and actually being able to switch parties on screen in front of me? Remove it. Now, I understand that this could be built into the game's engine, which would make it a limitation of the game's engine. That being said, remember that this has been reduced before twice in the game's history, which means Genshin Impact has more potential to refine the system even further. Also, the wait time alone wouldn't be a problem, but remember that if I press any button during this delay period, it will instantly cancel the command and return me to where I was. So it doesn't matter which button I press, mouse left click, mouse right click, tab, space, anything, it doesn't matter, it will instantly cancel it. And if we go into Honkai Star Rail, well, you will notice that, well, the party switching command is instantaneous. There is no delay, there is no cancellation. You press the button, you instantly get the party menu. At number 7, we have... Honestly, it's a travesty that this is even something in the game to this day. I have absolutely no clue how this archaic design philosophy managed to survive to this day. But when it comes to talent and weapon materials, they are time-gated behind certain days of the week. And this should absolutely never be the case. Now, on Sunday, they are all available to farm. You can farm them all on Sunday. But again, no one likes this design philosophy. It's completely useless. It serves no purpose other than wasting players' time. Just remove it and make it so that materials are available to farm throughout the week, because building characters is already difficult enough on its own. At number 6, have all the external maps pertaining to Teyvat's world be layered beneath their geographic locations where they should be. And what does this mean? Now, I've already made an entire video discussing this topic in detail and explaining it, so right now I'll just summarize it very quickly. For example, we have the chasm over here. We can see the overworld of the chasm. What I'm saying is that the underworld of the chasm, instead of accessing it through the menu, or you have to go to the menu and then click on the underground of the chasm in order to access a different menu, you can have a system that is similar to what Elden Ring has, where the game allows you to switch between the map layout with the press of a single button. So this is the map of Elden Ring, for example. You can see the overworld over here, and then in order for me to swap between the overworld and underworld of Elden Ring, I just need to press the Y button, and you can see that the underworld maps are layered right beneath the overworld maps. If the chasm and Enkanomiya in Genshin Impact are layered exactly in this manner, it would make the transition between the map layouts extremely smooth, and it would help in implementing future maps into Genshin Impact as well. Let's say, for example, Celestia gets added in the future, and Celestia is going to be in the, well, above Teyvat. You can have one overworld map, one underworld map, and then one, like, heavenly map at the very top, and they can all be layered one right beneath and above each other. And going back into Genshin Impact, a couple of people who watched my original video thought that I'm saying that the maps of Enkanomiya and the Chasm should actually be, like, added into the overworld of Genshin Impact, just attached into the overworld. That is not what I am saying. What I am saying is, you simply copy the map layout of Elden Ring, where you have the underworld map, the overworld map, and whatever other layers that you might want to add, and then with a press of a single button, you just swap between them, and they are layered right where they should be, geographically speaking. And again, this is such a simple change that the developers could include it almost instantly, because remember, they already have all the assets, they have the maps, everything is ready, they just need to copy-paste them right where they should be. And one final thing that I need to mention in order to be completely clear on this topic, I am not talking about the dungeons of Sumeru and the dungeons of Genshin Impact in general in Teyvat. I'm not talking about underground areas that are within the open world, the overworld of Teyvat. I'm talking about completely separate maps in Genshin, similar to the Chasm Underworld, similar to Enkanomiya. They can be layered beneath where they should be. For example, Enkanomiya, this map instead of having to open it from the list, now of course you can keep the list, but instead of having to open it from the list, I can go to Watatsumi, and then from Watatsumi, just like I showed you in Elden Ring, I can press a single button and then instantly have it swap into the Enkanomiya map. Alright, number 5, we are starting to get to the tip of the top, the cream of the crop, valuable quality of life changes that I think Genshin needs sooner rather than later. Starting off, we have, well, limited banners. I think that limited banners in Genshin Impact need to be changed as soon as possible because the system that we have right now is unsustainable for the future of the game. Because what's going to happen later in Fontaine, that's what I assume is going to happen, they will make it so that you get triple character banners. But then what happens to the weapon banner? Do we get 3 weapons on the same banner? Obviously that would be terrible for many reasons. Do we get 2 weapon banners? That would also be kind of boring and lazy because it would just be a repetition of the exact same concept that we have over here, except we will just increase the number of lists that we have. And the longer the game goes on, the more characters we're going to have, so Hoyoverse is going to have to look into a solution in order to fix the weapon banner, fix all of the limited banners, and find a way in order to run characters sustainably and efficiently and consistently. Coming up at number 4, we have artifact loadouts. And make no mistake, even though I have it ranked at number 4, for me artifact loadouts are by far the most valuable quality of life upgrade that Hoyoverse could implement into Genshin Impact during Fontaine. Characters, because of how RNG Genshin Impact's artifact system is, you are bound to reuse the same artifacts, at least not in every single character, but you are bound to reuse certain artifacts between characters, because you only can have so many good artifacts to begin with. And let me pull up a character that is a good example of this. Let me see. Okay, Thoma. So, Thoma is a character that has a million different builds. You can build him with HP, EM, attack, sub-DPS, whatever you want. You can even build him as a driver. And every time I have to use Thoma in an Abyss, depending on which build I want to run, I'm like out here playing... Bro, I'm like out here playing hide and seek with my artifacts. I'm like going peekaboo, which artifact am I running? Am I getting jump scared with an HP Sands? No, I have the correct ER Sands. Do I need an EM Sands? Where is it? Is it on my Kave? Who knows? And this is why we need an artifact loadout system. It would be extremely useful for the game, for the player base. This is something that many players have been asking for. It might not be useful for newer players, but it will definitely be useful for newer players in the future. And it is obviously extremely useful for older players. Furthermore, artifact loadouts make it extremely more enjoyable to actually gear characters, which is highly considered one of the most boring parts of at least prepping for an Abyss run. And yeah, this is something that in my opinion, it is the highest quality of life caliber change that Genshin could implement in the near future if they do implement it. And there are many other games that already have such systems in them. And now we are finally in the top 3. And the 8th quality of life update that I would like Fontaine to introduce is, well, these are 2 quality of life changes that go hand in hand, so I lump them together. Being able to reroll artifacts, introducing a new mechanic to reroll an artifact that you got, which was kind of terrible in terms of stats, and also being able to convert artifacts into artifact XP. Now, in Honkai Star Rail, both of these mechanics exist because if you look in the inventory, there is this item called Self-Modeling Resin, and you can consume the Self-Modeling Resin. You can obtain it from Nameless Honor, you can obtain it from events, and once you have this item with you, you can consume it in order to select an artifact type, and then select the main stat for that artifact type. And this is something that Genshin would tremendously benefit from. Furthermore, having the capability to convert all of your artifacts into artifact XP would solve many issues. First of all, it would solve the inventory problem for whales and players who have been playing for a long time and farming a lot of artifacts, because as you can see, I am always struggling with my artifact inventory where I have to delete artifacts or convert them into Mora. So if I can most efficiently convert them into Sanctifying Essence or Sanctifying Unctions, that would be extremely useful, because not only do I get artifact experience for my future artifacts, but I also save on my, well, inventory space. So this is a major change that they could add, and it is one that is incredibly simple to add. Just let us convert these into these, and not just 3 stars, also 4 stars and 5 stars potentially. but essentially you just get the point. And finally, we reach the top 2 quality of life changes for Fontaine. And honestly, this video ended with the third quality of life suggestion that I had, because right now, starting from number 2, we are entering into ultra copium territory. Not even I think Hoyoverse will ever implement these into the game. Not just in Fontaine, just in the game in general. But I do genuinely think they are good quality of life changes that Genshin Impact would significantly benefit from. Even if they are super copium, I will include them just in case. So the first one is weekly bosses, make them cost 0 resin, because weekly bosses already are gated by time. You can do each weekly boss only once per week, so having them cost both time and resin is honestly really inefficient and extremely archaic in terms of design philosophy. It's the same idea that we have over here with the talent and weapon materials that I was talking about earlier. That being said, the talent and level up materials are honestly, or rather the talent and weapon materials are honestly a lot more egregious in terms of how bad they are when it comes to time gating. Weekly bosses, I mean, having them cost 0 resin would be a lot better. Or alternatively, you could have it so that Catherine rewards you with some resin for completing commissions, and that resin is counted towards weekly bosses. Like, it's a special type of resin that you can use only for weekly bosses. That would honestly be really cool if they do that. Also, another reason why having weekly bosses being resin and time gated all at the same time is bad is because you have to remember that it's not just their materials that you're aiming for, you're also aiming for the prototypes, the weapon billets. Now, I will say this, not many people actually care about the prototypes. A lot of people consider these garbage, and the weapons attached to them are also garbage. I kind of agree and kind of disagree at the same time. There are some weapons that are good, some weapons that are completely useless, but this is another factor that you have to take into consideration when we're talking about these weekly bosses. Alternatively, another third alternative option is to increase, I suppose, resin income and resin regeneration rate in order to compensate for the eventual increase and inevitable increase in terms of characters that we have to build in the game and the number of weekly bosses that will accompany those characters in general. Do I think this change is ever going to happen? No. In fact, the number 1 change is the one that I do not have even a sliver of hope about. It is unbelievably unlikely that this change is going to happen. However, for a quality of life change, Fontaine directly buffs Amber and Xinyan. Now, do I think Hoyoverse are ever going to do this? Unfortunately, they themselves once stated in a vague GameStop or GameSpot interview that they try to avoid buffing characters directly. It's honestly, Amber and Xinyan are 2 of those characters where you can literally not justify how terrible their kits are. Their kits are unbelievably garbage, especially Amber. And it's not just because they do not have synergy with current characters, it's because their kits have fundamental design flaws that prevent them from ever having synergy now or in the future. There will always be an option in the game that is better than those 2 characters on any team. And I honestly want to keep this short because I want to make a future video about these 2 characters. Fun fact, I really like both of them. It's the reason I haven't built them is because I have no reason to, and the reason for me to build them would, I suppose, be making the video about them. But I'm still contemplating on whether I want to suffer through playing them or not. I mean, I do think Amber and Xinyan getting buffed directly would be a quality of life change for the game, especially in the situation of Amber, because Amber is a character that is universal, so her getting better means that every single player in the game has a unit that is now better than what she used to be. And what she used to be is complete and utter garbage, so literally anything that Hoyoverse would do to her would actually buff her, due to how bad this character is. Amber and Xinyan, they need a buff. Do I think it's ever going to happen? Again, just like number 2, it is extremely unlikely for this change to ever happen, not just in Fontaine, but just in the game's lifetime in general, unless Hoyoverse gets an epiphany or a divine message or something along those lines. But I suppose this brings us to the end, and now we move into the outro. Alright, we have reached the end of the video. If you are watching to this point, then I wanna take a moment to let you know that you are a very, very special person. No, I actually mean it. Statistically speaking, you are part of a 5 to 8% median of the viewer base that actually watch all the way to the outro, which realistically makes you a rare person indeed. And I thank you for that. Thank you for sticking up until the end of the video. Love you, appreciate you. But now, looking back into the video, this one has been a long time coming. I decided to delay it and wait a little bit before I actually release it, until we not only get more information about Fontaine in terms of official release, but also, well, wait until Fontaine is closer so that the video can cook properly. And when it comes to the top 10 changes, obviously I have said that the best 2 changes, the 2 I have ranked at the top, are unlikely to happen, but the others, I am genuinely interested on how many of those Hoyoverse is going to be able to deliver in Fontaine. I am assuming that they will be able to deliver at least 2 out of these 10, because I specifically handpicked these 10 to be as realistic as possible when it comes to game development and when it comes to what the game needs within the Fontaine patch cycle. That being said, Fontaine, the Nation of Hydro in general, is going to be an enormous release in Genshin. Of course, many new characters, a new Archon quest. The story writing of Genshin is improving, exploration is improving, everything is improving. Genshin Impact has now become an ultra AAA game from since the time it began. And yeah, I'm honestly interested to seeing what's going to happen in Fontaine in terms of story. In terms of characters, I am really excited for Arlecchino and Nouvelle. Perhaps the Hydro Archon as well, Focalors. I am not too sure about her though, but that is left to be seen. And yeah, that is all I have today. This was the top 10 quality of life video that I promised a month ago. And thank you all for watching. Take care, and I will see you in the next time.